guys, my name is Jessica. Welcome back to another episode of Pillow Talk. My beautiful guest today is Fiona Fusi.
Hi.
So Fiona might already be a familiar face to you. She's done numerous modeling campaigns and you have probably seen one before. So Fiona, can you tell us a bit more about yourself today?
So I'm half Hong Kong Chinese, half Austrian. I was born and raised in Singapore, so Singapore is still my home. And I've been an international model since I was 15, so quite
Wow.
young. I'm 24 this year. And I fronted campaigns for Chanel, Clarins, Lancome, and Charlotte Tilbury. And now I'm acting as well.
That is amazing. So anyway, just to give our viewers some background information about why we are here. So can you tell our viewers why we are outdoors and not in your bedroom instead?
So because it's such good weather today and I like being outdoors, I like the pool, island gal at heart, so decided why not take this outside.
I cannot relate. Frankly, it's a bit hot, but it's okay. We will soldier through this.
Yes, I wish we had those fans.
Yeah, spread ourselves. Okay, so I'm really interested to know, how did you begin your modeling career? Because you are, I feel
Yeah.
like one of the more prominent and successful international
Thank you,
local
thank
model.
you. So I started when I was 15, so quite young, but it was because I won this modeling competition called
okay.
Elite Model Look,
Ah.
and that was back in 2011. Normally, I don't really discuss my age, and I try
Yeah.
to keep it super low key. But it's just because I started really young, and I think at a young age, people kind of tend to judge you based on your age and all that,
Definitely.
So yeah, I just kept it low key. But after winning the competition, things really like picked up from there. I represented Singapore also in the world finals
Yeah.
for the Elite Model Look competition. But at that time, I was still in school, so I was still doing IB, and it was pretty tough. I was like balancing school and work, but I'm glad I did. And then after that, I kind of went to an unconventional route, and I kind of swam against the stream because I didn't really go straight into higher education, university. I went to work instead, and I lived in all these different countries. I lived in Hong Kong, Tokyo, Paris, and New York as well for modeling, and basically just growing my career.
So you were so young. What made you decide to join a modeling competition at 15?
I knew that I always wanted to. Like I knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but I also knew I was going to start with modeling. So when I was 15, actually my friends were sharing the event, like the
Okay.
competition on Facebook. And I was like, okay, they were kind of like confident, they were like, oh yeah, this is for you, like you should go do this, And I was like, just because I knew that's something I wanted to do. So I actually didn't even go in person. I just like submitted my photos and stuff online to them directly, and then I forgot about it. And I actually didn't tell my dad. I only told my mom. And I remember my mom was like, hey, did you read the fine print? Like the fine print says if you win, you have to take 2 weeks off and go to Shanghai for the world finals. I was like, Mom, that's so far away. Like that's if I win, like don't think about that yet. And then I ended up winning, so I actually had to do all of that, but it was a good experience, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, people always think that the modeling life is all glitz and glamour. I want to know if you have any insider information about what
Yeah.
it's really like behind the scenes,
Yeah.
like.
I feel like the glamorous side is, probably shown like in shows and like, all these different media outlets or like magazines and stuff. But I think that's one side of it. But there's also like the reality, like the harsh reality where, in the industry, a lot of people aren't treated well, And when I was living in Paris and New York, particularly, like the castings are really crazy and they're pretty bad, Like they will just they will call all agencies to send basically like all their girls that they have in their roster to go down at the same time, same day, and just wait in this giant room with no chairs, no tables, no food, no drinks,
Oh,
right? And
no.
they expect you to wait like the whole day, like you have no life, And I remember going there and I was like, I really have an issue with this. I personally call it like cattle calls, where basically we're just like cows waiting, in a slaughterhouse or something. But it just, a lot of times I felt like they just don't really have that like respect, and they just, I think a lot of people who maybe are like desperate and willing, they're kind of like testing to see if you're willing to do anything to, get the job, to get the show, the campaign. But for me, I had kind of like an issue with that. But luckily, I'd say for most of my like international or global campaigns, it wasn't like that. You know, I think there's kind of two sides to the industry, and I think from a young age, I felt like I needed to show people how I want to be, you know, treated. And so I would just tell my agent that I don't want to go to those castings because the chance of you getting it and also the way that they treat you is so low.
Yeah, I think it's good that you stand up for yourself because I think in the industry that can be a bit superficial sometimes. People may tend to lose their way and get insecure
Yeah.
and really not know what they want for themselves.
Yeah. I find with this industry, like you kind of do have to go in with like a strong sense of self.
Worth.
And yeah, self and self-worth, and kind of know who you are and your value and your, I guess, your values, right?
Yeah.
And where you will draw the line, because especially now, you know, there's been so many movements like, you know, Me Too and all this different stuff where people are finally exposing, I guess, these kind of insider information, because for a long time people were scared too. And I'm glad, because, you know, we should be more vocal about it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're speaking up about it because I wouldn't have known about this cattle call thing.
Yeah.
I just sort of assumed that like models they get handpicked before.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you send your portfolio.
That's like
or
the
something.
better ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The ones where like if they have a look in mind, or
Yeah.
they already know who they wanna, you know, work with and stuff,
Yeah.
then so that's a lot better, you
Yeah.
know, and you feel a lot better as well. But I think actually it's mostly for like fashion shows that they do that, where they just, you know, call everybody and stuff. But yeah, I'm glad that's I have experienced that, and it was a good experience. It was like insightful, but I kind of had to leave that behind.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned fashion shows. So are you like a beauty or a fashion model?
Yeah. Well, for models, I guess we kind of judge on whether you're like a real model if you can do both, right? If you can do like fashion shows and also like beauty. But it's just because like, you know, there are these two sides. And I would say that for most models, we do strive to like get beauty campaigns and to get like the bigger campaigns, because not only do they treat you better, but you know, you also get like the pay is higher, the exposure is better, you know, the name and all that. So I think the transition can be difficult, but if you can do it, then you know it's better for your career, I think. Yeah.
So I take it that you enjoy like beauty jobs more.
Yeah, I think beauty, I think everyone can relate to beauty. I
Yeah.
think fashion is a bit more niche, and
It
it's a bit,
is.
yeah, it's also relevant to like, you know, your climate, your season, you know, like your culture, right? But I think for beauty, everybody wants to be beautiful. Everyone wants to feel, you know, wants to feel beautiful. So I think there is a kind of global, you know, relatability, which is fun. It's fun to represent. And also like I liked, so for Chanel, I was kind of their first Asian face that they
Wow.
used, for their global makeup tutorials, and I flew to Paris all the time for those. And like that was interesting to see that, you know, they were finally, you know, I was able to show some representation
That's
and
nice.
bring that in.
Go
Yeah, I know.
Singaporean girl.
Yeah, you know, so I think for us Asian girls, it's cool to see that slowly shifting. Yeah.
Okay. So I've heard some like gossip about fashion shows being a total wreck behind the scenes. So do you have like any stories to share about horror stories preferably?
So, well, it's funny because when you're behind the scenes, when you're like in the fashion show, the behind the scenes, the energy is so tense. It's so intense, you know, like people when they do hair and makeup, it's so rushed. They don't really care how you feel,
Yeah.
you know. And then like when you're dressing as well, like, you know, they're basically, the moment that you get off the stage from a show, they're already pulling your clothes off.
Ripping the
They're
clothes
already
off
ripping
you.
your clothes off, yeah, and you're like hobbling on one leg trying. It's kind of like the movies, I think, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really stressful, and they're really like shouting your name, you know, for you to get on there, because you have like 2 seconds, you know, like 20 seconds, and then you have to go on there, and they basically kind of like push you, and then you're like serene, you're like beautiful walking down the runway. It's like the total polar opposites. And then
so
the
interesting.
moment you turn the corner, you finish your walk, and the walk is really short, sometimes like 20 seconds. You get off and you're running, you know. So it's so stressful. But, you know, I have many friends who are also models, and I think we all can agree that fashion seasons and also fashion shows are just really, really stressful, you know. And it's like for such a short period of time as well, you know. It's like, it's an experience.
I think it's good to hear like a very realistic viewpoint on what modeling really
yeah,
is. You know, it's
yeah.
not just about looking pretty.
Yeah.
There's a lot of long hours, tough work, and sometimes like a bit of emotional abuse to yourself? I
it's
think
true,
so.
yeah. Sometimes when I'm traveling, like, and I have a shoot overseas, I travel across the world, like jet lag, no sleep, and then the moment that I hit the ground, I have to go to shoot, and I shoot like full day, and sometimes it's like consecutively, and my longest shoot was like 22 hours nonstop.
That's so long.
Yeah, and so it was you still have to like do your best and like look good.
Yeah.
Some people you can just show up and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think it's tough to have to look effortlessly beautiful all the time. Like I think that's what people expect of models.
But that's the thing. That's the stress, right? It's like you feel like you have to live up to people's expectations because we're just normal people as well, and that pressure is tough sometimes. Like you give yourself that pressure as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, when you started modeling so young, was there like any sort of criticism, disapproval, or even any difficulties you faced as like a young model?
Yeah. Well, luckily for me, my parents, like my mom was quite supportive. My
That's
dad,
nice.
not so much, but he came to understand me a bit more. But what was rough was also like the public's opinion because when I was 15 and I won the competition, a lot of like websites and like media were all like posting about it, right?
Oh.
And I remember the Straits Times had my bikini photo, like because there was a bikini segment for the competition. They had it like full page, like front page, and then inside also full spread of myself blown up, right? And I thought it was a happy moment to celebrate because I won. But at the same time, I remember they also, wanted to blow it up even more. And they went and they asked, like they surveyed a few people, like 20 other people, like aunties, uncles, young, old, about whether they approved that a 15-year-old was parading around in their bikini. And it's like everyone has to have an opinion about you, everyone judges you. And from that young age, I was like, why are they spinning the story? Why are they flipping the story? So I think that can be tough as well, like not letting other people's like opinion and judgment affect you mentally.
Yeah, they should just let a good thing be a good thing. Come on,
Yeah,
let a
yeah,
15-year-old
yeah.
girl live.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, they don't criticize like how many 15-year-olds are wearing a bikini to the pool or at the beach. No one says anything. But obviously, the media thrives on like drama and like newsworthy stuff, right? So I kind of had to understand that from a young age, not to let other people's perspectives and opinions like drive you crazy.
I think it's important, especially with your job scope, just loving yourself for who you are.
Yeah, and
That's
I
the most
think
important.
that also applied even for like later life as well, and for like everything. A lot of people worry about like, oh, do they like me? Am I doing the right thing? But sometimes it's just noise, and you have to just do your best, do your thing. Yeah.
So throughout your modeling life, you're a very prominent, like beautiful figure, right? So does that invite sometimes unwanted attention?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I've had some like weird stalkers. Like,
Okay.
I mean, besides like
Tell us.
besides like the Instagram DMs and people who are inappropriate, who like undress me sexually with their words. I
Ooh.
know, but then there are a few who've like gone out of their way to stalk me, like in the real world.
In person?
In person. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the line is drawn, right? Because if it's cyber, if it's online, sometimes you can just kind of, maybe they're all talk and no action.
Yeah.
But these guys actually like went and acted on it. So there was this one guy, he went to my agency because that's like publicly listed, right?
Yeah.
And he went in and he asked for my address. And of course, like my bookers who were there were like, we can't give you that information. And he said, no, but I'm her boyfriend. I'm Fiona Fusi's boyfriend, so can you give me her address? And she was like, if you're her boyfriend, I'm sure you have her address, right?
Yeah.
And then the story just got weirder and weirder. He was like, no, I need her address because it's a surprise, and I'm writing a book about Obama, Clinton, and Fiona Fusi,
Oh my
and
God.
like I need to interview her for this.
I want to read that book.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what alibi? Like, what kind of story is this? And of course, it just got weirder. So they were like, my bookers were like, I'm sorry, you have to go before we call security. I got his emails like over the years, and it would be weird things like, be my wife. If you're my wife, you'll be safe. And at first I thought it was just all like emails, but actually he went to the agency to get my address
Oh
to
my
try to do
God.
it. And that kind of made me paranoid because I didn't know who he was, but at the same time, he was asking for my address. He could have asked, anyone that I know.
Yeah.
So I went and I went full paranoia mode, and I texted and I messaged all my friends, and I said, don't give out my address to anybody, like don't, and that just made me like really scared or protective, right? And then that was like one of the first cases. And then there was recently, like I think 1 or 2 years ago only, I was training at Evolve MMA. Basically, I was doing MMA at this gym, and there was this guy who was DMing me every single day, like
So
without
devoted.
fail. Yeah, I mean, in a way, it could be sweet, but it was a bit weird lah. So this guy would DM me every day,
Yeah.
and it would be like diary entries where he would be like, today I had a really rough day, Fiona. I'm so happy I have you. You're the love of my life. Like, you're the best girlfriend. All this stuff. I know, and I've never met him before. I've never spoken to him. I've never applied to him,
Hey, but at least it's wholesome.
Yeah, at least it's wholesome. At least it's wholesome. But then there was one day I was training at my gym, right? And at my gym, at the end of a class, you have to shake hands with every single person. And I'm a bit short-sighted, so I don't really go and look at who's in the class, right? So I saw this guy, right? And he shook my hand and he lingered for a little bit longer. Yeah, like a little bit length. And then I felt this weird feeling, right? And then later on I went back and I thought about it, like right after the class, and I realized it was him. Like I had seen his photo because he DMs me every day, and it was him, and he actually was in my class, right? And then he followed me. There was like later on in the day where I went to the gym upstairs, right? And there was actually 2 times where he like made contact with me, and the second time was when I was upstairs at the gym, and basically I was using these weights, and he was just watching me. And then after I put down the weights and I went to get like another equipment, he ran and picked up my weights.
Oh my
He
god.
picked up my weights.
He just wants to hold whatever you
Yeah,
hold.
and he just stood there. He just stood there with my weights. He didn't do anything. And then after that, yeah, it was so weird. And then after that, there are these like half ball balancing things. And so I was doing squats on them. And the moment that I got off, he ran with my weights to the squat thing, but he couldn't balance. So he was like falling over, like unstable, but still just stood. Everywhere that I stood and everywhere that I held, he would like go and do it, right? And then I just was pushed further and further into the gym, like further away from him. I wanted to avoid confrontation. I didn't know what would happen. And then finally, I was like at the edge of it, and I was like, okay, I gotta make a run for it. I just went, and I like ran away from him. But then he followed me. He dropped everything. He followed me, and I heard like, Fiona, Fiona. Like really, it was a bit haunting.
Oh my god.
It was like, and then I had to go down to an instructor, and I just was so scared. I needed to talk to someone, and he could fight, right? The instructor could fight, and he just lingered. He just stood there. Even the instructor found it weird. He looked at him like, "What are you doing here?" And then I just ran to the bathroom, and I hid there for like almost 2 hours, and I had to get my friend to come and wait for me. But again, the guy went straight to DMs, and he was like, "I'm so sorry. Like, don't run from me. Like, give me another chance."
Oh no.
I still remember this, and after that, unfortunately, I couldn't really do anything because the gym said that he's a paying customer. So I told them about the story. And I had some friends who said I should maybe get like a restraining order or something. But so far, haven't lah.
Yeah.
So far, there hasn't been any other.
Yeah, at least he
Yeah.
didn't like touch you, like approach you
Yeah,
and touch
yeah,
you
yeah.
inappropriately.
I think these people, they're not really like aggressive. It's just that for some reason, they usually think that we are close. Like they're a little bit in their minds. They think-
Delusional?
Yeah. That's the word, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, I think as long as it doesn't get worse, like I'm okay, but there are pretty freaky like experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty bad already.
Yeah.
But hey, at least you made someone go to the gym.
I know, yeah, at least I helped them out a little bit.
I wonder if he still goes back.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of had to stop going so much because I think it was,
no.
I think, the gym is kind of like one of your safe spaces, it's like your school or your home or something, and it's just, you don't want to feel like you're unsafe or you feel like violated in those places. And the moment that I felt like I felt weird or tense in the place, I just didn't really want to go, yeah.
So enough with the freaky guys. Tell us about the real men in your life. We want details on your dating life.
So,
Laughs nervously.
nervous laughter. So I am dating someone now.
Yay!
And it's been good because he's not like in the industry. He's from He's from overseas technically, but he is like working here now and stuff, and it's just been really good because I think we do have like kind of our own independent lives, you know, and but at the same time, I think we're still really supportive of each other, like supportive and just understanding. So it's been working really well. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I think you need someone like that, who can understand your jet setting lifestyle and that, you're a public figure.
Yeah.
Not everyone can
Yeah.
gel with that.
Yeah, it can be tough, and especially like guys who are not really so secure, like if they're a bit insecure or a little bit like unstable,
Yeah.
then I think it feeds it even more, like they become worse.
The perils of having a beautiful girlfriend.
Ah,
So difficult to be beautiful.
no, it's about like the jealousy factor as well.
Yeah.
Like when you work with a lot of people, and like because when I'm
definitely.
acting,
Yeah.
I have to work with like other co-stars, like male co-stars. We have to kiss sometimes on screen and do stuff. So I think it's tough. I understand, but like it would be it needs someone who's understanding and like confident and secure. Yeah.
So I won't mention any names, but you've dated somebody in the industry before.
Yeah. So
I mean, yeah.
mm,
How was that? Like, difficult? Easier?
Yeah. Honestly, it was tough because, being in the industry, you already have like the public eye on you,
Yep.
and you get a lot of like stress and pressure, and especially, with the uncertainty of our schedules and stuff. And because, we were both in the same industry, not only did we all know the same people, right? And Singapore is pretty small, but also like he had the same schedule as me, like we both had the same like unpredictable schedules. And so basically there was almost like he had almost like no time for me.
Aw.
Yeah. And then at the same time, we had this pressure of the public eye, having to answer to people's questions, people wanting to know about a relationship, especially like on social media, and I think that pressure can make it really hard. We just want it to be low key, but that's why I prefer having someone who's maybe not in the industry, because I feel like I can be more private and I don't need to really like involve everybody, because a relationship is tough to navigate by yourself, let alone with like 100,000 people watching you who you've never met, right? So it can be tough.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. I always thought it would be easier to date
Yeah.
someone in the industry because
Yeah.
they can understand,
Yeah.
but it can also be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, definitely. It really depends, I guess, on their personality as well.
Well, I'm glad that you seem happy now dating.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, it's not really public information, is this? Like, they're currently dating?
No, not really. So I rarely talk about relationships actually, just because, I think like feeling how it's like for people to talk about you from a young age. I
Yeah.
just like to keep some things private, and especially, things that are a little bit more personal, a little bit more like matters of the heart. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's tough to open up. But yeah, it's important. I think it was interesting to see, like, even in my first relationship, it was during high school and we were not from the same industry, and it worked really well, and we were together for like 4.5 years. So I think I tend to need guys or like guys who maybe aren't so involved in the industry, just because it can be a bit of a confusing place. And they definitely have to be, quite like independent and secure and stuff like that.
So, other than being independent and secure, like, what's your type of guy?
I'd say I am attracted to guys who, like, besides being independent and confident, but also like secure, stable, reliable, but still like adventurous. Like they have to like to travel like me. They have to, also understand, like we said, right, my lifestyle.
So, what about deal breakers?
When I was young, I didn't really have any. For me, it was just they have to be nice. They have to be kind.
It's a very basic requirement.
I know. I didn't have any really, but then now that I realize, what I want and what I don't want in a relationship, for me, I'm just repelled by guys who are like super arrogant, super cocky, like the ones, the image that you have, the stereotypical image of like the macho man, the manly man,
The
like,
king of the world.
yeah, like, oh, you're my girl and I'm the man. Like, you make me a sandwich. I'm like, ugh. But it's just, guys who are just don't want to be your equal, like that kind of guy. I have no time for. Yeah.
Why do you have like such a big dislike towards that? Did you date somebody like that before, or is somebody in your life like that?
I think it comes from the fact that like my dad is kind of like that in our family dynamic. He tends to be like that, you know, traditional manly man, and like has to be the man of the house, and like what he says goes. He doesn't need to apologize, you know, that kind of thing. And I feel like in our modern day, in our more self-aware society, we call it like toxic masculinity, right?
Yeah.
Where they just can't like be vulnerable and be honest. So I think it definitely comes from that, like the fact that I can't date someone who reminds me of my dad, you know. And like I think it comes up actually pretty early on in the relationship. And I mentioned that, you know, if I feel like there are two big similarities, like I can't do it.
Yeah, I think we have the same dad.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, my dad's exactly the same.
Yeah?
I think a lot of Singaporean dads are generally like that.
Like the
It's-
traditional what a man should be, you know, like that kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
like a more modern man.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
sensitive men.
Yeah, exactly.
In touch with their feelings.
Yeah.
Vulnerability is
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think sometimes when they're not very open with their feelings, they can come across as like a bit too intense and just headbutt their way through everything.
Yeah,
So like I had a lot of conflict with my dad when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Did you have the same thing?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So like when you're really young, I think like it's still happy, you know, everything, like you're a baby, it's fine. But then I think once I started growing up, and especially like in the teenage years, I mean, I'm quite a vocal and like opinionated person, and I was like that as a child as well. So once I really became, I had a voice and I could talk back, you know, he didn't like it. And so I think in our family, like my mom is kind of stuck in the middle because my dad is like the really strong, like I'm the alpha, and then I don't really like it, and I always need to like put him in his place, and then we just headbutt the whole time, we argue, and so yeah, I kind of had to navigate that and find a way for me to still, you know, the obligations we have as like a filial child, and like, you know,
Yeah.
to take care of our parents, to still like keep that relationship. But I needed for my own well-being to like distance myself a bit and to stop needing like that approval and that validation.
Yeah. I think it's a bit skewed, you know, that kind of like parent-child like dynamics in Asian culture compared to like in the West, where I
Yeah.
feel they're a bit more equal.
Yeah,
And
it's
you
true.
know, sometimes they even call their parents by their first
Yeah, I
names.
know.
It's not so much of like you have to take care of your parents until they're 80 or until they die.
yeah, exactly.
Like over there, it's pretty much like, okay, spread your wings and fly.
Exactly. They kind of like, the way my dad tells me is that, you know, his parents kind of like raised him so that he can eventually be independent.
Yeah.
Go and live your life, you know? Whereas I think for here, it's like, you can live your life, but not too far. Still stay close, you know?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I struggle because literally my parents, like, you know, I'm like a third culture kid, so I've got that split of like Asian parent and Western parent, and I try to balance it. Yeah.
So your dad's the Western one, as in
Yeah, my dad's from Austria, but
Oh.
internally he's more Asian, like his traditionalism.
Mhm.
Whereas my mom, she's from Hong Kong, but I think she's just more understanding, more open-minded, so we get along more.
Right. Well, at least you have a good mix of like, you know, two different kind of parents.
Yeah.
Not the all controlling.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear that you have the same thing, because I think we don't really talk about it so much, like especially maybe in our culture, we don't really like expose
Yeah.
how our families are like, you know.
Yeah. Oh, loads of Singaporeans have daddy issues.
Yeah. 2020. Hopefully, you know, the next generation will be different.
Yeah, let's not fuck it up for our kids.
yeah, man.
Marry the right man, then
Yes.
hopefully it won't happen.
Yes. Make sure you choose, you know, someone who
Does not represent toxic masculinity.
yes. Who is someone you want your children to like look up to, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of that, like, actually I think you can tell a lot of a person by the way they treat their moms.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
It's true. But see, that's the thing. I kind of struggle because I treat my mom really well, but then when they say, oh, you know, how you treat your parents is how you'll treat your person. But actually, I mean, me and my dad don't get along. So does that mean I'll never get along with my husband?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. You know, I feel like it's our duty, you know, to kind of be aware of our own like habits and patterns and to kind of break that cycle, because what I've learned is that when a person has not healed from their, you know, hurt,
Yeah.
they pass it on to the next generation.
is
and the
so
next
wise.
generation. Yeah.
really
so
true.
I feel like, you know, we need to be aware of that, and we need to change so that we don't do that for our kids, right?
That's really good advice, actually. So we all know you've been modeling, right? But acting's been new for you. So can you tell us more?
Yeah, so last year I kind of started acting and getting more into that, and I had 3 new shows that came out.
Nice.
Yeah. So the first one was with Click Network.
I have seen that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, Girl
Yeah.
Bangkok Girl Band.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that one I actually played the bitch. Like I played the antagonist.
I have seen it and I was so
Yeah.
impressed because like we all know you as a nice girl and you played the bitch really well. I
Thank
actually disliked you in the show. I was
you.
like, you're a bitch.
Yeah, thank you. No,
Good
but see,
job.
that's why I took the challenge, right? It was
Yeah.
my first role, but I felt like a good actor is able to convince people that they are like that person, even though they're not, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking at first, what if people think I am a bitch? But anyway, it was fun, like it's all just for the show. And I think
Yeah.
people understand that, I'm glad people believed that I was that character.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting first role and I had a lot of fun.
It was very entertaining.
Yeah. So that was my first role. And then the second one, I did this short film in Chinese, directed by Joanne Pei for this Channel U Fresh Takes kind of
Wow.
segment.
Okay.
And that was also really fun. And it was my first time working with Joanne as like director and an actor. And then my third role was Las Madame. And it's like a Toggle original. And it was also really fun to be involved in the process because Joanne Pei played the Last Madame. And then in this time, we were able to be like actors together on the set. And the show was M18. So at first we had to really push actually for that rating because Toggle didn't really want to make it so high, I guess, the rating. But actually we were really happy because the response was incredible. And we ended up being the most watched English Toggle original show ever.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we're really hoping that there will be like a season 2 because people have really been asking for it. And I've just been really enjoying doing that because actually I love like expressing myself and kind of lending my voice to a message and a story, a character. And so I hope to be doing more of that, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you do a lot of things actually. Modeling, acting,
yeah.
singing.
Yeah, singing as well.
A lot of things.
Yeah, I hope maybe in the future because music was actually like my first love in school. So I'm thinking maybe eventually I'll also go back to that as well. I've kind of been holding that off because it's really personal. For me, music is kind of like my deep feelings. So I'm just glad to be able to do more creative things that I'm more in control of. Yeah.
So was there like a most memorable scene for Last Madame?
Honestly, I think the most fun scenes were like the scenes where we had to get really up close and personal.
Like
so,
this?
Yeah, like even more. Well, I had a kissing scene in The Last Madame, and there was kind of supposed to be like an intimate scene, but we only shot the afterwards, like the morning after shot. And it is so funny because when we watched it, we all got together, the cast got together for like a, what is it called?
Like a screening? Or
Yeah,
something?
like a private screening of the show, and we were watching it. I was dying because it looked really good and really like, woo, like
Intimate,
really
hot.
hot. Yeah. But then actually when we were filming it, it's like the complete opposite as well. Almost like with modeling, the backstage thing.
Yeah.
So we were filming in this old auditorium, like this old school auditorium, and there was no aircon, no fans or anything in
Like
there.
now?
Yeah, it was super hot. Also, we couldn't have any like ventilation because of the sound.
Yeah.
And we were filming on this old leather couch, and it was like a one-seater couch, and we had to lie there like we had just had a good night's sleep, and like spooning and cuddling, and our legs we had to really be like intertwined.
Oh my
But we were
God.
sweating our balls off. It was so hot. And I remember I had to turn, and my hair was sticking, gapping in between his arm. I was like, ow, ow, ow. But I had to make it look super romantic and beautiful. I think those were pretty interesting. Besides like my emotional scenes, which I'm really proud of, and I think the emotional scenes are hard to film because you need to relive those feelings again and again and again and again. And sometimes you have to film the same scene so many times because of angles and script and all this different stuff. But the physical scenes were also like, I think they were funnier,
Yeah.
They're more embarrassing. Yeah.
Do you think like modeling or acting is tougher?
I think it depends. For me, I think acting is more of a challenge.
Yeah.
Because I think with modeling, it is a little bit less demanding on like your emotions. I think you could be having a really rough day and you might not be able to see it, and you might not need to show it. But I think with acting, it really shows if you're working with someone who you don't really have good chemistry with, or a director or whatever, and it's affecting your mood, it's affecting your emotions. That can affect your performance, and that can affect your ability to get into the scene, to get into character. So I like it. I feel like I've always wanted to, I guess, do more and be able to express more. And I guess there's so many messages and so many things that we should talk about
Yeah.
in this world, and that's why I like roles that are challenging, that have strong female characters. Especially for us Asians, I feel like we need more representation. So I feel more drawn to that right now. Yeah.
So, are there any particular role models that you look up to? Because you seem like you do
Yeah.
things with a lot of intention.
Mm.
Like, I feel like you
thank
kind of
you.
had it planned out when you were like
Yeah,
younger. Okay, I'm
yeah.
gonna do this and
Yeah.
this.
I had like a vision, and at that age, I didn't really know how it would happen, but I knew that it would. Maybe that's like the law of attraction or
Yeah.
something, right? When I was really young, I really loved, and still actually, I really loved Tyra Banks. Yeah, and I kind of saw her as like an icon because she started off with modeling and she was really successful. She also pushed boundaries, and because she was the first African American model to be on Sports Illustrated cover, and that was like groundbreaking for that time. I think it was like 1996 or something really early. And then now, I mean, that changed because 90s, now we're like the 2000s, and she's managed to kind of become her own brand. She's like an entertainer, a host. She started the whole, Top Model franchise.
I love that show.
Yeah, that we all know around the world. And I think that's kind of like the path that I looked up to when I was young, which is to, have a big personality and then use it and, kind of establish your own brand, your own path. And I just feel like you just need to be open to it and have that kind of intention. So I'm glad you said that. Yeah, that means a lot to me.
Okay, so now we've got up to speed with your current life. Do you have any upcoming future plans to share?
I would love to, but like right now, a lot of things are kind of postponed because of the COVID-19, the virus. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are experiencing it.
Oh,
where
definitely.
things are stalled and stuff. So, but I still have some like campaigns that will still be rolling out slowly, and hopefully I can also get back to you on like other acting roles and other shows that
Yeah.
will be coming out, and maybe even music. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing you more, seeing you more.
Yes.
I mean, I really see you everywhere. I really see a lot of your campaigns. I'm like, hey, that's Fiona. That's
I have
Fiona."
friends who also, they like story it, they like post it, they're like, why are you following me? I'm like, I'm always watching Big Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't really met her a lot before this,
Mhm.
but I feel like I've seen her face so many times. It's
Mhm.
like I know you.
I know how it feels like. And probably Instagram as well, right?
Yeah.
Like we've seen each other around.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I'm glad that we could do this.
Yeah, it's actually a lot of fun. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And also do leave a comment to let us know who you want to see in the future episodes of Pillow Talk. We'll see you next time. Bye.